Amanda, welcome.
Thank you.
Amanda Beattie, from Coalition for Kids, Director of Programming, and we're very excited to welcome you and honor you for being an outstanding alumni of our program in Human Development and Learning, specifically the Human Services major.
Thank you.
So it's an honor to have you participate in this, to help our students and our classes learn from your experience. So if you're okay, we'll just kind of head into questions.
That sounds good.
All right.
Ready.
Great. I think our students would, just like to know really what decision process, what kinds of things did you sort out, if you remember, as a student, that led you to want to have a career in a human services field?
Well, it's funny because I started out actually in education. That is where I was heading, and I was working towards getting right towards the test that you have to take before you actually get into the College of Education.
Okay.
My grandmother was a teacher, and I kind of understood. I knew a lot of friends that were teachers as well, and everyone said that I had a gift of working with kids. And I really thought that was the only way that you could work with children, right, was becoming a teacher. After meeting some other people, coming to ETSU, I've learned that there were other things that you could do in order to still be able to work with kids, but not become a teacher and work in the school systems. And that was fit more my personality. That was more my type. I really wasn't looking forward to being right in the classroom every day with the same kids, but I really wanted to make an impact and make a difference. And I wanted my profession to be something that I could say, yes, I'm making a difference in somebody else's life.
Great. Excellent. So, it is interesting how we can kind of have a limited perspective on jobs and careers, and suddenly, there's a whole lot more things to do out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it was just really amazing how once you got into, back when I was in school, it was Human Development and Learning. There was no Human Services.
Right.
And it was interesting because my, what do you call it? My
advisor?
Yes, my advisor. He opened a whole door for me and showed us so many other different opportunities that we could take and different avenues, and that this profession, this degree, was going to be much broader than something more focused. I could go in many different areas, and it seemed like my world could be a lot bigger as far as my options and my choices when I graduated.
Great. Excellent. So how then did you find yourself at Coalition for Kids? What was the progression? I'm not sure if you worked at a nonprofit or whatever before you came to Coalition, or tell us about that.
Well, actually, what was funny is that I had actually worked in the school system for 6 years as an instructional assistant working with Hispanic children, and I would tutor them and help them throughout their schools. And so I had to leave that job because my classes got more intense and flexibility was a little harder with my classes. So in leaving that, I had a friend who was the director of programming at that time at Coalition, and I had gone and volunteered for a Christmas party, and we had sung Christmas carols and played with the children and cleaned and gave presents and just spent some time with the kids. And she approached me later and she said, I think that you should come work at Coalition for Kids. And I said, no, I've been with kids for a while. I think I'm done now. I want to take a break. I'm going to go work in shoes. I'm going to go work in retail. I don't know what I was thinking, because that was 2 years of some craziness right there working in retail. But so I worked in retail for a little bit, and then she came back and approached me again. She goes, I really think that you have a gift of working with kids. And I was like, okay, it's not the first time I've heard that, but that's an idea. So then I said, well, I need a part-time job to get me through the rest of my college and be able to pay the bills. And so I came on as a part-time tutor, working about 15 hours a week, and working hands-on with the kids in their classrooms, getting their homework done. And I did that for a year at Coalition. So that's how it got started.
Okay.
Then I did that for a year, and then Randy approached me. Randy Hensley, our executive director, he came to me and said, you have such an outgoing personality. You work hard. You're here all the time. We want to consider giving you a full-time position as our volunteer coordinator. I was like, working with volunteers? I don't know anything about working with volunteers. And he said, well, you just have a really good personality. I think that the college students will warm up to you. At that time, we were probably serving about 200 volunteers a semester. And so I came in and became the volunteer coordinator and their special events project manager.
Okay.
And so I did that for about 3 years. And then as we progressed and moved and grew and got bigger, I slowly started taking over some responsibilities of the program director at that time. And I just found that was where I really was able to use the gifts and talents that I have. And my executive director, who's just very open-minded, he said, I think I've got you in the wrong spot. As much as you are good at volunteer coordinator, you really could exceed and excel in being the program director. Mm-hmm. You have a great talent in vision casting. I always am looking forward. So he put me in that position, and I've been doing the director of programming position now for about 4 years now. So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's been fun. I've had a blast. I've been at Coalition for 9 years. I don't plan on going anywhere else. I'm kind of sold out to it and to this nonprofit organization. So, but, my hopes and dreams, I'm always wanting to continue to grow and to be something more. As much as I enjoy being a program director, one of my goals is one of these days is to become an executive director of a nonprofit organization so that I can make even a bigger impact in our area and in our community.
Wow. Fabulous story.
Thanks.
Really, it so lines up with the kinds of things that we hope our students will do, which is, test the waters, do some volunteer work.
Yes.
Be involved in a class that has service learning as a part of that, and meet some wonderful people who start to help them see their talents.
Yes.
And that's what happened.
Yes.
That's totally what happened.
That's leadership. That's
right.
I've learned through many leadership classes that I've gone through with John Maxwell and several like him, that say, look at your gifts. If you can focus on your gifts, then you are going to exceed and excel in what you want to do. So that's what I'm very grateful to have a mentor as well as a boss who can see that in us and put us in the right places.
Excellent.
So
that's great.
Thanks.
Good. Well, tell me something about what it is that Coalition for Kids, what its purpose is, the kinds of things that it does. I can't assume that folks watching this will instantly know, even though I think it's a fabulous organization and everyone ought to really know what it does. Tell us something about what it does and a few more details about what your role is.
Okay. I always say it's easy to talk about something that you love. I love Coalition for Kids. We are a faith-based nonprofit organization. We work with at-risk students in Johnson City. We started out in 98, and we started slowly building. We started with a vision in the community through a pastor, and he had a church that wanted to build a privacy fence. They were right next door to Tyler Apartments here in East Johnson City, which is a really lower socioeconomic area, and they wanted to build a privacy fence. And he just couldn't do it. And so he kept talking to his congregation. He says, what are we doing? Why are we shutting down? Why are we building up fences when we should be reaching out to the community? So they came up with a goal, with a vision. And so they took that money instead and they built a brand new playground in Tyler Apartments. And then they wanted to carry it from there. And they wanted to have a community center in this neighborhood. And then they wanted to have a clothing store and a thrift store, a place where people could receive stuff. And so businessmen in the community that he knew got together and they bought the building that we have right now. And we started out we started in the summertime, and we thought that we would work with all volunteers. Yeah, that didn't work well. As much as we love volunteers are a little bit inconsistent. And working with these kids, you have to have consistency.
Right.
So we learned through trial and error how to go about having an after school and summer program. And we started out with about 60 to 70 kids that first year. And now we're serving more like 400 kids now over a 11-year span of being at Coalition. We started out just in that neighborhood, and as time progressed, schools heard about us. Teachers heard about us. We were making an impact in the kids while they were here in our building. And so schools would invite us to come out because they might want to have a Coalition program. And so we started out at Northside and added on Mountain View. Then we went to Cherokee Elementary with their Amistades program, which is working with Hispanic kids. So we've branched not just from East Johnson City, but now we're in South Johnson City. We've gone to Indian Trail and working with the 6th and 7th grade students. We're at Southside. We joined on there just here recently. And so now we're in 8 different schools. And then we also run 2 evening programs. So the kids get an opportunity after school to come and be with us. And we give them a snack and we help them get their homework done because we want them to exceed and be successful. And we also want them to know that there's somebody there that cares about them. We always say we want them to open up with a smile and to ask them, how are you doing? You might be the only person that gets to ask that question, and they never hear, and they don't think that anybody really cares. So we help them with their homework, and then we do so many minutes of reading. After that, we give some playtime. Get the wiggles out and get those wiggles out for about 15 minutes, and then we get busy on the homework. And when the kids get finished, 5:30 comes really quick.
Yeah.
That's 2 hours is a short period of time to be able to try to get anywhere from 30 to 50 kids homework completed. And so once that's finished, we have all of our students get the opportunity to be able to go to our evening program. And we have an evening program called Kids in Action, KIA. And there we feed them a home-cooked meal, and then we do an hour's worth of activity, and then we transport them home, or parents come and pick them up. So it's a time that that's the time where you really get to know the kids and spend time with them and build those relationships. It's chances that they don't have opportunities such as horseback riding and sports clinics and dance and computer labs and things like that they're not really able to participate in. Sometimes parents don't want them home. Sometimes it's parents that are working that just can't afford them a place to be anywhere. So it's really, we have a wide variety of parents, but they all need a safe place to be. And that's what we're there for, is a safe place for them to be. We now have about 130 kids in our evening program. We have 2 evening programs, one in our main building on Watauga Road. And then we just opened our second evening program at Muncie United Methodist. We have around average 80 kids at our main site and about 30 kids at our other site. So it's really been a need. And we've learned that if you provide the transportation, the kids will come because they need a place to be. So,
wow.
Yes. That was a lot.
That's huge. I mean, look at the growth of Coalition.
Yes.
Look at the growth of your job as a director of programs.
Yes.
How many different sites?
Well, we have 8 after-school programs and 2 evening programs. And so we serve about 400 kids a day. And I have about 47 staff that I work with that work under me.
You're like a principal.
Yes. You would kind of say that. You would kind of say that, yes. But I have a great staff of, I have wonderful site coordinators. My site coordinators, each one of our sites has about 3 to 4 tutors that work hands-on with the kids. And my site coordinator oversees that site. And then the site coordinator comes and talks directly to myself about the programs. So, and then just here this past year, I was able to get an assistant program director. So that was a blessing.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
That was much needed.
I can only imagine.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, we were getting so big that I wasn't really able to do everything that I knew that needed to be done for a successful program. I was too busy trying to do a lot of the paperwork and keeping up with the programs and vision casting and how are we going to do this? How are we going to come up with a way to find out if we're any good? How are we going to test that and how are we going to measure it? And so I have to be constantly thinking about those things. So that kind of kept me out of being hands-on at the site. So our assistant program director, she's a lot of my hands-on. She's in the sites and she's looking and she's observing and making sure our programs are running like they're supposed to be. So
excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I just continue to be more and more impressed and amazed at all the, as they say, balls you are juggling in the air. It's fabulous. Well, thinking about how that program has grown and how your role has evolved, and you even started to mention, things like vision casting and leadership and from managing volunteers to supervising staff to collaborating with schools. It's enormous. The skill sets that you draw on, by this point, you have a toolbox that's this big.
I do.
And as our students are contemplating a career in human services and maybe, I don't know, it's, when you first, took a position and you sort of think your job is going to be kind of like this.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, and it wasn't long. I mean, quickly, your job becomes massive.
That's nonprofit. I think, and now see, I don't know, this is the only nonprofit that I've been in.
It is.
But from conversations from others, if you want to be a nonprofit, you have to be flexible. You have to always be learning, and you always have to be open to new ideas, something coming at you. You have to kind of be, okay, I've got to be able to relate to this. Well, how am I going to relate? I've got to learn, and I've got to always be studying and be on top of it. So, and I think that's how it works in nonprofit.
Right. And that's what I hear on the academic side as I work with agencies in addition to Coalition, that, wow, I thought this, and oh my, look now, and this didn't take but, year and a half, 2 years, and suddenly, my plate runneth over, and I'm, trying to grab training and new knowledge constantly. So tell me about the skill sets that you use now or that you felt you had to pick up, or maybe even in a, hey, students, you have a chance to do this now, do it.
Here's some ideas. Here's what I didn't think I was going to be doing.
There you go. That's it.
Well, let me start with my weakness. Let me start with the weakness. I am not good with numbers, and I am not good in math. And one of the things that I have to force myself to do, I have to work on a budget. I have to manage and maintain a budget. I sit in on budget meetings. I help with the creating and the planning. I sit and manage all the site's pay rates, all my staff. I assign them pay rates. I have to manage where they're going, give myself reminders of when they need pay raises. So every year a budget comes. Every year we have a board of directors that we have to be responsible to, and we have to be good stewards of our money. So I have to be sometimes the bad guy that says, oh no, I'm so sorry, we can't be spending this. And then other ways I have to go out and I have to find those things. I learned very quickly that it never hurts to ask. I'm all the time asking. If I'm told no, it's okay. It's like water off a duck's back, and I say okay. But I continue to ask, because some people, they don't even know that they can give until you ask them what they can do. So, and working in grants is a new thing for me. We have a grant writer, and she is fabulous. But she and I have to collaborate together in order to make our program successful. She can't just sit down and write a grant and then hand it to me and say, oh, look what we're going to do now. And I'm like, okay, that's not even feasible. So she has sat down with me. She has shown me how we have to write goals, and we have to write objectives, and we have to be able to show measurements. And I go, well, can't we do that? And she's like, well, how can you measure that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. don't want to measure it. I just want to do it. And she's like, and she helps me kind of keep a little grounded, and because we have to be showing people who give us money from other grants and donors that we are good stewards, and that we can spend the money wisely, and that it will be effective in our program, and they don't want to see money wasted. So we have to show a lot of proof. So that's another thing is the follow-up and keeping up with the grants, and what do we need to do to make sure that these grants are successful, and what do I need my site coordinators to be doing as far as measurements and surveys, and how are we keeping track of what we're doing. So it's grant writing was completely new to me just within the last couple of years in working on that. So
budgeting
and grant writing
and project management, really, in terms of...
Yes, very much so. My degree helped me out a lot with child development. With human development and learning, and taking your psych classes and learning how children develop and what we're thinking really helped me work in my area of working with kids. Now, I got so much from ETSU, but I also need to continue learning, because if I just stay with what I learned at ETSU, that's been a while back since I graduated. I have to keep up with what's going on through trainings and things like that. And we do sort of different types of help through the Department of Human Services and things like that help us. So a lot of organizational skills. I reach into a lot of calendar and being able to manage and be organized. That has to be like top on the priority of skill sets, is in being able to juggle so many plates. I have to know how fast those plates are spinning and where those plates are spinning at. And making sure that they're continuing to spin and not forget about one. And you learn sometimes the hard way, and then sometimes you go, oh, well, then I could do this better. I can use a calendar. Look at this. So, but that's been really helpful. As far as leadership, I learned a long time ago from Mr. Randy, our executive director. He used to tell me, Amanda, you've been here how many years now? You need to talk like you own this program. And because a lot of times I have a lot of self-reservations because I've not done this program before. And as we're growing and as I'm having to do these new things, I go, oh, well, this is something new. I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, okay, well, even if you don't know what you're doing, you need to sound like you know what you're doing and own this program. And so that's something that I've come up with and that just has taken years of becoming self-assured and knowing that I might not get it right the first time, but I will get it right eventually, or we're going to change it to where I can get it right, and be flexible in that area. So. But also another skill set I believe would be and I've mentioned it before, is being able to look forward and being able to see, okay, how I do a lot of creating. Right. I'm all the time researching and looking up and seeing what's new and seeing what's out there and what would best benefit our program. Randy says, never invent the wheel. The wheel's already been invented out there. You just go out there and find the information that you're looking for and then suit it to your program. Right. So that's been really something that I do a lot in that area. So good. Training. We train all the time. And so a big part of my job is training our staff and making them be the best that they can do. And because it's all about the kids and we want the best for the kids. Yes. So that's where we're at. So, yeah. Wow.
Lots of skills necessary and things that some of it you learn on the job and some of it you might wish you had. Was there a course for that? Did I miss that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it's not just me. I have to say, in working on a team, we are a team. It's not just me that's leading the cause. We have a director of development. We have a volunteer coordinator. We have an administrative assistant. We have a donor relations. So there's like 7 of us that work together, and it takes all of us to be able to make Coalition do what it does. And we can't even do it without our site coordinators and our tutors. Right. Our tutors have the heart. If you don't have a heart for a nonprofit, then you need to be in the for-profit world. You'll never be rich, but you will make a difference. And there will be days that you feel like you don't make a difference, and there'll be days that you're wishing that you had gone into the for-profit world. But at the same time, there are those periods, those moments that make it worthwhile. And those are the times that you go, oh, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, but it does take a whole team. It does. It takes all of us to be able to.
And I'm so glad you said that because, as a faculty member, when you create those group projects, and the students kind of go, oh, but in the workplace, you need each other. Yes. And once you learn that, the team on your project has talents and gifts, and that what you can do to pull together as a team is just so valuable, and learning to do that is so important.
Yes, and I also would say that you may not even like everybody on your team. I have not really liked everybody that I've worked with, but I show them the respect because they do their job well. Some of us are maybe oil and water working together, but we've worked so long together now that we've learned each other well enough to go, okay, I need to let this person process a little bit, and maybe I don't need to just spring this on them. Maybe I need to give just a little bit of warning. Whereas, and then they come and I'm like, why are you giving me details? I don't want details. I'm a big picture person. What are you doing? So, but we learn over time, and I mean, it's not like it's happy sunshine roses all the time, by any means. But you know, we're all human and we're working together. But it's been really fun. So working together, and that's really important in being on a team. Is that you don't have to like everybody all the time, but you got to show the respect for each other.
Absolutely.
So to pull it.
Absolutely. Well, that's just an amazing and wonderful discussion. Were there any individuals or experiences, courses, whatever, while you were here as a student that had a big impact? I know you mentioned the child psychology development courses.
Yes.
That were just a wonderful base of information for you. Anything else that you can point to and go, wow, that was, that was a turning point for me of information or mentoring or just even, because I had that, I know I don't want to do that.
I think now there was a course that I really did enjoy in the human development and learning, and that was cultural diversity. That class had a big impact in learning so much more than just what's in my little immediate world, as far as that goes. Other classes. At the time that I was here, it was at the very beginnings of human development and learning. Right. And so we did there were some education classes that could be transferred over as far as that goes. I think some of the things that I learned really didn't even relate so much to courses, but it was being able to learn the responsibility of being a college student. Being able to remember to get things done when I needed to get them done the hard way taught me what I'm doing now. Being able to be responsible enough to get the paperwork filled out so that I could graduate. Yes. And yes, you have to do it a semester ahead of time, and you kind of forget, and so the responsibilities of being a college student here at ETSU, you're very much pushed to be self-sufficient and to be a responsible person in getting your stuff done for the college and for the university and for where you're pursuing. I've heard people tell me, well, I missed this, so I'm going to have to spend a whole nother semester before I can go and finish this. And that was very important to me during that time, was to get things done when I was supposed to get it done. Right. And I had to learn it the hard way. Every freshman and sophomore has to have those bumps in the road. But as time grew, it became very real to me that this is going into the real world of I need to get my act together. I need to be able to do what needs to be done when it's supposed to be done and try not to procrastinate so much. Right. I work a lot with college students. Majority of our staff, I would say 90% of our staff is college students. And that's something that I really try to teach them and really try to talk to them about is you're coming into the real world, and this is just a taste of it. It's an exciting taste. And sometimes because we're a ministry, because we're nonprofit, sometimes it doesn't look like it's a real job. Because it's so much fun and we're working with kids and we're making a difference, they lose the big picture of this is a real job. Right. And so there are things that you're expected to do. And I find a lot of times I have to kind of give them abrupt reminders that when we're going to train, you're going to be there to train. And if you don't show up, just like in college, there's going to be some consequences. Right. And you're not going to succeed. So. Right.
Good. We're glad you're a collaborative faculty member, Amanda. Thank you very much. It's excellent. Well, if you're looking for a professional member of your staff, maybe not a volunteer or part-time, but let's talk a professional member of your staff. What would you be looking for in terms of attitudes and experience and behavior and skill sets? What would be at the top of your list?
At the top of my list We would really have to be looking for someone, and we Randy and I have both learned this. We've done quite a bit of hiring. We have to find someone who could fit our culture. Every job, every business, every different nonprofit organization has a culture, and we have to find the person that could best fit in our environment. They need to be able to be flexible, and they need to be able to be a team player, because we all are about being on a team. Not
Right.
one person can get the job done.
Right.
As far as skill sets go, depending upon what job we were hiring for, would be determine the kind of skill sets that we would need for that job. It could be someone who's really athletic. If we were going to hire someone to be a sports rec supervisor, okay, well, they were going to have to need to organize. They're going to need to know about sports. They're going to need to know how to relate to parents, because you're going to be working with parents, with kids,
Sure.
with teammates. They're going to have to calendar different things like that. Our donor relations, and being able to meet and mingle, being able to speak in public, being able to see the opportunities that may be out there for our organization. We have to have someone with a heart that's able to do what we do. Our job is not easy. We have the stories of kids who hide food in their pockets, or they have to be taken away, and social services comes to our organization to take them into foster care, and they're going to be removed. There's so many stories where we hear, mom hits me. Sometimes we feel our hands are tied to a certain extent, but they've definitely got to be able to have the heart to be able to do this ministry. But at the same time, they've got to be able to do the job. It's not just loving the kids.
Right.
Everybody can love kids. I think anybody could just about love a child, but it's being able to step outside of that and to know, hey, I have a job to do.
Right.
And this is my job. And if I don't do my job,
Right.
then the entire team suffers because I don't do what I do and do it to the best of my ability. So I think it's someone who could really stretch themselves and be teachable. It's so about being teachable. You don't know everything when you come into a job.
Yes.
And, a lot of times with the college students that I've worked with, and I don't know if this is the most popular thing to be saying, but it's kind of like they already kind of expect to have a position and to have this role, and it's like, majority of our leadership staff, we were volunteers, we were part-time staff, and we climbed a ladder. And I think sometimes the reality doesn't hit them well when
Yes.
when folks graduate, sometimes of knowing that, no, I'm not going to automatically be the director of programming when I graduate. I'm going to have to mop some floors and clean some toilets and take out some trash and feed some kids, and going to have to do some of the other stuff first before
Right.
you're able to do something like that, or to become an executive director. So, but Randy always tells us that no job is that the jobs are everybody's job.
Right.
If Randy sees trash can full, Randy's going to take the trash out. If I see that something needs to be swept up or cleaned up, I roll up my sleeves and here we go. So have to be willing just to give. A servant's heart, I think, are some good qualities, some skill sets that need to be done, especially in the nonprofit world.
Right. So basic core principles and values of the individual become really important, and that they're teachable.
Yes.
And, coming with skill sets in particular are fabulous, but they have to be able to learn them as long as they have that great core set of.
Yes, exactly.
Good.
Have to be teachable. They have to be able to know going into it that they don't know.
Right.
And that's okay. But that they're willing to learn and to do whatever it needs to do to get the job done. So.
Good. Well, you talked about well, you talked about stories, and tell us, a story or two about a fabulous, one of those where you just went out the door at the end of the day with your hands in the air, yippee-ki-yay, and woohoo, and this is what it's all about.
This is why we're here.
That's it.
Let's see. We had 2 little girls. We did not realize it at the time that they were homeless, because we were picking them up after school, and we didn't realize where they were, and they were brand new. They came in the middle of the school year. 2 little girls, and they would come to our evening program.
Okay.
And we would feed them dinner, and we noticed that they were taking chicken and putting them in their pockets. And so we were just kind of like, why are you putting chicken in your pockets? What's going on? Is there something wrong? You can talk to us. You can tell us things. And so they kind of broke down. They were a little embarrassed at first, but then we learned that they were living in a U-Haul.
Oh, wow.
On the side of the street. And they were living in a U-Haul with their mom. And this is where it gets hard, because being in nonprofit for so long, you tend to jump to conclusions. And so automatically you think, what a bad mother. I can't believe she doesn't have a home for her kids. And you just start getting on the family. But what we learned, once we stopped, once we paused and let them continue talking, Mom was blind.
Oh, wow.
And the father had walked out on them. And the mom was blind, and she was depending upon another friend, and that friend probably didn't have the best skill sets to be able to have a job. And so they were living in the back of this U-Haul in the meantime until they could find a place to live in government housing. Wow. And so what we found out was we were able to connect with other agencies to be able to provide for the mom and try to get her hooked up and get her connected with a job, and get them help through other local agencies. We're a part of United Way, and so we have sister agencies that we can turn to be able to say, can you help us? We've had kids, their teeth were just absolutely horrific. We've had moms who would just come in crying, just holding their mouth like this, and they can afford to get teeth done. I mean, people with decent salaries who don't have dental insurance and stuff, they can't even afford it. So we're able to connect with agencies like Keystone Dental Health, Dental Clinic, who can help us when we can go to them and say, this is a need that we can't take care of. Can you help us out? And we were able to get a mom a beautiful smile, and she was so excited. We were able to help her get some teeth, which in turn was able to let her get a job. That was another story of a success story.
Wow.
That was, it's something little, but that little thing gave her the confidence to be able to go out and to be able to get a job, because she didn't have any front teeth. She had several missing, so we were able to connect in that way. We've had kids who come from some bad home lives, and we've known it. But because they weren't able to let go or to share, they were stuck there. But yet they've been able to come back to us and to be able to say, I saw a brother and sister who we've had for years. I saw them at the 4th of July fireworks several years later. At that time, they were 16 and 17. And they came back to tell us what Coalition had meant to them. They saw us, we were selling concessions at the 4th of July fireworks, and they came up and they were just like, hey, Coalition, do you remember me? And we're like, of course we remember you. What are you talking about? And being able to see them and to see that they're okay, because there's a lot of our kids, because of the traveling that these families do, they could be here and then go to Elizabethton and then go to North Carolina. We've had kids that are in 8 schools in one semester. And so sometimes we lose them and we don't know where they're at. And then we get blessed later on and we get to see them, or they'll just come in the door later,
Right.
And walk in and say, do you remember me? And I'm like, oh yes, I remember you. Yes, you were the one I wanted to pinch your head. But he's like, well, this is what I'm playing football now and I'm about to graduate. And I'm just like, that is wonderful.
Right.
And some of them are able to succeed and move on, and being able to see that, those are the times when you can just go, yes, it is so worth it. And we get those from time to time, and we live on those
Yes.
for a while till we can get to the next one. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. That's wonderful. The work that the whole organization does is just tremendous, and more and more of the literature that talks about the key things that children need, particularly in the young ages, and
Yes.
and the difference that can be made with some love and some experiences and with positive people.
Yep.
It can just be enough to keep them in school to graduate.
And it's the smallest things. It's a volunteer coming every Tuesday to play basketball in the gym with the boys. He did that for 2 years, and then he had to move away. You would have thought that their world had ended because he had left.
Wow.
And it devastated them that he was gone. And so you just don't know what kind of impact that you're making. And that can be said of, when I go out and I'm wearing the coalition name badge, or even when I'm not wearing coalition name badge, I don't know what kind of impact that I'm making. And so I'm always constantly in the back of my head. And this is something that I think students should know, that I am representing Coalition for Kids, no matter where I go and no matter what I'm doing. And I always want to leave a good taste in someone's mouth and to let them know that this was Coalition for Kids, or she's associated with Coalition for Kids. And that's good. That made it,
Right.
We were able to leave behind better than maybe what we found, or when I'm living and I'm going and I'm doing things, they go, yeah, because your character is what you've got to be able to have some credibility and to be able to carry yourself and to be a leader, not just in your organization but out in the community as well.
Right.
So
Yes. You never know who's watching you.
you never know who's watching you. I've learned that.
That's so true. That's so true. Advice for our students.
Oh, advice.
If you could just say, to go into this field, government agency, nonprofits, all that encompasses human services. Here's in my experience what you need to be successful.
Hard work. Nothing will come easy. And be able to go above and beyond. It's one thing to do your job, but it's another thing to do your job and do it well. And to know that you've done all that you can do to be able to make it a success. And always, my boss always told me the key to keeping your job is to make his life easier. So I took that to heart. And I always tried to make sure that my boss's life is easier, because he knows that he can rely on me and that I can get the job done. And he has complete confidence and belief in my direction and what I'm thinking. And just being able to go above and beyond and hard work. it's not going to come easy, and it's going to take time. You may be at the lower end of the brass ring for quite a while, but if you're constantly giving it your best all the time, somebody's going to notice, just like Randy did with me,
Right.
And coming into full-time position, and just giving your best in whenever you do it, and however long it takes, and be teachable. I've talked about
Right.
that, to please be teachable, and just know that you're going to have to earn your stripes, so to speak. I think that's kind of a big reality check for folks, is that you're going to have to pay your dues and work hard and show yourself. If I just walked into another organization and I became an executive director, they're not going to trust me that much.
Right.
I'm going to have a tight rein. They're going to be really inspecting what I do. But if I can work and I can show and I can prove myself, and people can see where my heart is and my consistency and how much I'm willing to give, then they're going to be able to put some confidence in me. And I think that just comes with time, and it's just going to take time that way.
Yeah.
So.
And the field as a whole, growing, needed.
Yes, definitely. Nonprofit work, I think, it's got to be some of the best work. It's it's scary because with the times the way they are right now and the economy, people aren't giving. You get scared and you get worried. I mean, there's been times at Coalition where one week we paid the bills and we tried to collect enough money to pay the bills, and then the next week it was try to raise up enough money to pay the staff. And so it's a scary area as far as consistency with, but at the same time, the reward, I think, outweighs it.
Right.
And being able to do something that I really believe in, it is the best. I always tell people I have the best job. I think I have the best job just because I'm doing something that I know is making a difference. And in the field of human services, there's so much to do. There's so many different areas that you can travel down. You could do nonprofit, or you could work with the government, or you can work in wilderness camps. You can do all sorts of rehabilitation and things like that. There's just so many opportunities out there, which is was one of the reasons why I chose this degree, was because of that. It's because I had different many
Right.
options. So, but
Excellent.
yes,
Right. Amanda, this has been fun.
Oh, well, thanks.
I hope you felt it.
I did.
Good.
I did.
Good.
I did. I
Good.
was a little nervous at first, but yeah, this was good.
Excellent.
So-
Excellent. Anything you want to add? Anything just that,
Just that. I love Coalition.
and I think that's great.
Coalition. I really, you see these T-shirts that say "I heart my job" on the back of it, and so one summer we put the "I heart my job" on the back of it. But it's really true. I was like, we were all excited about that. We were like, but no, we really do love our jobs, and I think it's so exciting to be able to see my staff when they're on their Facebook. They're putting pictures of our kids up. When they're on Facebook, they're making comments to their friends and to each other about their job and what they're doing.
Right.
And yeah, they talk about other stuff, but a lot of it is their work and what they do. And it's because they really love it.
And goodness knows, we spend a lot of our life at work.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you. You want to love your work? I want to love my work.
Yes. Yes. And I think
Very
that's
important.
what counts, And so, yep.
Good. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Good.
I appreciate
Great.
it.